Imagine you're scrolling through Instagram, and you see that flawless aerial shot of a mountain range at sunrise, the kind of image that makes you stop scrolling and think, wow, I could get something like that. You want that same level of detail, but the moment you start looking at drones, the choices get overwhelming. Do you need a professional-grade rig, or will a simpler model get you the results you want without draining your wallet? That hesitation is real, especially when you consider how much you'll spend, the learning curve, and the risk of ending up with a machine that can't keep up with your creative ideas. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The DJI Mavic 4 Pro Fly More combo is positioned as the flagship in DJI's consumer line, promising a tri-camera system, a 100-megapixel sensor, and a remote that's basically a tiny tablet. For anyone who's ever tried to jam a smartphone onto a cheap drone and ended up with blurry, shaky footage, this feels like a serious upgrade. But before you hit Add to Cart, let's break down exactly what that upgrade looks like in practice, who will actually benefit from it, and where the trade-offs sit. First off, ease of use. DJI has been polishing its interface for years, and the Mavic 4 Pro sticks to that philosophy. The controller DJI RC2 has a 7-inch rotatable screen that you can flip to face you whether you're holding the drone in your left or right hand. The menus are clean, and most of the day-to-day actions, like setting the flight mode or selecting a camera preset, can be done with a couple of taps. What matters most, though, is the auto takeoff or land function. In my test runs, I could place the drone on a flat surface, press a button, and it lifted off smoothly, hovering at a preset height. When the battery got low or wind conditions became questionable, the return to home triggered reliably, which is a huge confidence booster for beginners who worry about losing a $2,000 plus piece of equipment. Autofocus on a drone can feel like a lottery, especially when you're tracking a moving subject or shooting in low light. The Mavic 4 Pro's 100MP Hasselblad sensor pairs with a phase detect AF system that, according to DJI's own data, locks focus in under half a second for most subjects. In real-world use, say, a cyclist racing down a forest trail, the focus stayed locked even as the rider zipped past, and the resulting stills retained those crisp details you'd expect from a high-resolution sensor. That said, the autofocus does occasionally hunt when you swing from bright sunlight into a heavily shaded area, so you'll want to give it a beat before you start recording fast-moving action. Low-light performance is another point many potential buyers stress about. DJI claims a 0.1 lux nightscape omnidirectional obstacle sensor, which essentially means the drone can see obstacles even in near darkness, and the camera can still capture usable footage. In practice, the 6K per 60 frames per second HDR mode performed admirably on a cloudy evening when I shot a city skyline. The dynamic range was evident, highlights didn't wash out, and shadows retained texture. However, you'll still need to add some exposure compensation for very dark scenarios. The camera isn't a full-frame night vision rig, but it does give you flexibility you didn't have on older models. Stabilization is where the 360 Infinity gimbal comes into play. The 3-axis design is smooth enough that even when I simulated a windy day by manually shaking the controller, the footage stayed rock steady. The gimbal's ability to roll a full 360 degrees without hitting a software limit is a nice touch for creative shots. Think of a cinematic spin around a lighthouse, or a vertical plunge from a cliff edge. For most hobbyists, the extra agility may not be a daily requirement, but for creators looking to add a signature move, it's a real advantage. Battery life is a constant headache for drone pilots, and the Mavic 4 Pro claims 51 minutes of flight time. In my field test, the drone hovered around the 45-minute mark before the battery warning triggered, giving you a safe margin to return. The Fly More combo includes an extra battery, a charging hub, and a carrying case, so you can swap out midday without hunting for an outlet. If you're planning a full-day shoot with multiple takes, this extended endurance is a genuine productivity booster. For casual users who only fly once a week, the extra battery may feel like overkill. Range is another practical consideration. The O4 Plus transmission promises up to 30 kilometers of video feed, but remember that many countries legally limit you to visual line of sight, often around 500 meters. In my tests, the signal remained strong and lag-free up to about 2 kilometers in an open field, which is more than enough for most landscape and architectural work. The real benefit is the low latency link, enabling precise adjustments while you're framing a shot. If you intend to shoot in dense urban canyons or heavily forested areas, expect some signal degradation, but the drone will still maintain a solid connection if you keep it within line of sight. Now,